Did this used to be a weekly occurrence?
Sure, we'll say that.
Yeah. Do you think about the moderating side of it, Lise? We kind of just
No, it's a bun, don't we? It's a bun fight mate who gets to speak on our podcast. And
it needs to be Snoop Dogg who takes over as president, and he needs to get the whole country to chill the fuck out and have a smoke.
Rejoin Rants.
Max, please introduce yourself for our listeners.
Hi, everyone. My name is Max. I run the Robespierre channel, where I talk about British politics and Brexit in particular.
Great. And our other guest is, please introduce yourself, Al.
Hi, I'm Alex, also known as Political X. I'm a historian, journalist, YouTuber, and try to be an all-round do-gooder.
Try? Just try.
What do you mean try? I need to hear details.
I try. Can't all be pure of heart like 100% of the time, can we?
Yeah.
We can pretend.
We can pretend, yeah. We can in public.
So what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about tonight, guys? There's hardly anything going on in the world right now, yeah? It's all calm and lovely, and, you know, peace and love is reigning all over the world. So now, obviously, we're going to talk today a little bit about our social media moguls, the oligarchy, Trump, fascism, and probably a few other things thrown in that fall into that category. So what are your impressions, guys, of the first 24 hours of Trump's reign of power?
Fantastic. If you're MAGA, if you're right-wing, if you're a Nazi, if you're a neo-Nazi, if you're a fascist, supporter of Franco, Mussolini, you'll be over the moon with all of this type of stuff going on, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Do you think it has the potential to start World War III?
I actually think we could take a little bit of hope out of this. If we remember back to Trump's previous administration, his previous time in the White House, he tried to do a deal with North Korea, and a lot of people were celebrating the idea that Trump was making peace with North Korea, and there was a chance that there would be peace between North and South Korea. It didn't actually materialize, but in the last 24 hours, Trump has come out and said that he wants to do a deal with Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Now, we don't know what that actually means. He said that he would end the war in 24 hours, but I'm a little bit optimistic when it comes to certain things. I'm extremely pessimistic when it comes to others, but when it comes to maybe doing a deal with Putin to end the war, maybe there's something positive there. Of course, there's a risk that he will try and throw Ukraine under a bus. But I'm hopeful that something can be worked out, that he'll be tough with Putin because he's in a strong position, and some of it's sort of a mixed bag with some of the people that's in his administration. Some of them are pro-Ukrainian, others are, it seems, pro-Russian. So it's going to be interesting and maybe hopeful that something good will come out of this, but for other things I'm extremely pessimistic. So don't get me wrong, I'm not supportive of Trump on anything, but if there's a chance of some peace within these 4 years, then that's something we should grab onto.
Do you know what? I genuinely agree with that. I saw that headline earlier about Trump, and I'll be honest, I only read the headline because I was busy. But the way the headline read was that Trump was basically going at Putin saying, you need to stop this war within a certain amount of days. Whereas I always thought, when Trump talks about ending the war with Ukraine, I always thought he meant he's going to go to Ukraine and say, you give that territory to Russia, otherwise we'll stop supporting you. And then that would have ended the war temporarily until Putin then wanted the next bit, obviously. But that's what I thought Trump meant. But the way that headline read earlier was that Trump was actually going at Putin rather than Ukraine. So it kind of gave me a little bit of hope as well. But again, I'm not a Trump supporter either, obviously. But yeah, you're right. That was the tiniest bit of hope I've seen today, actually. The only bit out of everything that's come out.
It came up a lot, actually, in the run-up to the election, that people who were on Trump's side would often say, yeah, but he's really good for world peace. That was their kind of go-to, when I kind of spoke to people about why, I remember, someone even in the airport, in a shop, I'd just come back from America and started to just spout at me how wonderful Trump would be for world peace. So I kind of get that, but everything with Trump, I just think you can't, if you look for this tiny little thread of goodness, it's just, yes, it would be wonderful if Russia would pull out, but I think Putin's going to be, step back in your box, bitch, and don't speak to me like that. That's what I really think he will do. I just can't
Quite
see,
possibly.
Him just saying, okay, and looking weak that Trump has asked him to de-escalate and end this war and then doing it. But I hope I'm really wrong about that, but we'll have to see.
What does history say, Al? Does it say that Trump is the kind of person who's good for world peace?
You brought this question up just off air in, the causes of World War I and II and how you bring this along. The best way I could describe it would be as if I was in the operating seat and thinking about how I would leverage this, and that's the key word, leverage. I would work more along the lines of what Otto von Bismarck would have done or Teddy Roosevelt would have done, who were very good. In fact, Teddy Roosevelt was the American president who negotiated peace between Russia and Japan. There's actually a strong correlation there. Otto von Bismarck, German chancellor, known as the Iron Chancellor, always worked along with leverage, but also used war as a facilitator. I don't see what leverage anyone has over Putin other than what Putin has. You can't leverage him from the inside because he's got such a tightly knit group. He just whacks anyone that comes out with opposition. How do you force him into the negotiation table? The only thing I can see is the Russian economy collapses. But look at Saddam Hussein. He had the same sort of economic principles, smaller country, less resources. Didn't really leverage him. They just killed lots of Iraqi children. I think someone threw out a horrendous stat. It was the same number of kids died every day as 9/11 in Iraq, which is a horrific stat when you start thinking about that. But did it change anything about the dictatorship? The answer is no, because they're unfazed by this. It's just the population that are weakened. So, I would have hoped that the Wagner group would have taken him out. When that happened, I was like, yes, that's potentially the end of him. And something stalled. We don't know what. Something stalled, and the guy then left the country, which is just bizarre. So I don't see how Trump can do that. And I can see, as you all said, Putin will just give him middle finger because he's a dictator. And one of the biggest problems from history about being a dictator is once you're in power, as soon as you start to show any weakness, you set a precedent that it's okay to kill the leader and take him out and then take power. And that's the problem with dictatorships. They might start off with good intentions in their mind, or they might have some positivity on the economy. But as soon as you erode opposition and you then put down the guardrails, you then put yourself in a position of when you show weakness, someone will kill you. And I think he can't operate like that. I know you're hoping something more positive. Sorry.
No, I just want the truth, to be honest.
The great is good. So yeah, you need leverage. I can't see what leverage they can get. There's your simple answer. And Trump can say whatever deal he wants. Putin's got a big enough country and economy that he can just go up yours and continue doing what I want.
So then what? Who fires the first missile? Trump or Putin?
You see, that I don't think that can happen. Like history says that no one's, even Putin, as mad as he is, and as a dictator as he is, everyone knows as soon as you press that mute button, it's suicide. So you can't do it unless you're crazy enough to want to commit suicide, which I don't think any of these guys are because they're narcissistic in tendency. So I think it's just going to have a continued stagnation until either the Russian economy collapses or the Ukrainian economy collapses. And that's, and neither's good.
Deeply worrying stuff. Do you think we're all allowed to say now that Trump is a fascist?
What are you talking? You're not even allowed to say Elon Musk does a Nazi salute when he clearly does a Nazi salute in front of fucking the world. So no, probably not.
I put out a challenge to all right-wing commentators who are claiming that it's not a Nazi salute. I asked them to do it on TV or to do it online and see, just copy what he did. And we'll see the reaction. If you truly believe that it's not a Nazi salute, then do it on, I don't know, ITV or on Channel 4 or on the BBC or on GB News. And I'm sure, the response will be just the same.
Yeah,
but they won't do that for some reason.
No, James O'Brien said something similar. He goes, if you're going to phone in and argue me that wasn't a Nazi salute, next time you're at parents' evening, stand up and do it and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is the crazy kind of shit that we're living through. It's like there's truth and objectivity is just so distorted now that we have to give grace to something that it is what it is, but it has to be looked at both sides. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was this. No, it wasn't. At one point, people are saying he's the world's most intelligent man. Oh, but he's that stupid at the same time, that he would, automatically would do something like that. It just doesn't make sense at all. And
do you, Lisa, think that it gives him headlines? Does it give him political clout, or does it damage him?
I have an opinion on Elon Musk, and basically I just think he's a deeply insecure, damaged man, dripping in childhood trauma. And I think that he loves to be loved, a bit like Trump, a bit of a narcissist as well. I think that, getting grace for his work with Tesla stuff was good enough, but it's not like that. I love you, man. You speak for us. You're one of us, and I just think he's been so swallowed up by the love of the far right he gets off the far right. And I think his rage at, say, the European Union or anyone wants to kind of hold social media accountable online by law, I think it's a mixture of all of that. And I just think he just doesn't care anymore. He was with the AFD last week, remember, before he made that Nazi salute, he's probably been in a nice private meeting and pick up a few tips on how to get that snap right. You know what I mean? He's a very odd individual, but both Peter and I really do not like it when people say, well, he's autistic. He's autistic.
I hate that being used as an excuse for anything when it's been brought up in a murder case. It's brought up this week, I think, that kid that stabbed that girl tried to use autism as an excuse for diminished responsibility. And I'm not diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I am autistic, and my son is diagnosed autistic, and he's possibly one of the nicest people on the planet. So the idea that it's because he's autistic that he's trying to destroy the world with Donald Trump actually infuriates me. It's because he's a cunt, not because he's autistic.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation. I have an adult daughter who had a late diagnosis of autism as well, and fabulous person who really cares about shit, a bit too much. So it's, so I don't take that one, but it's not just Trump. It's not just Musk, is it now? We've got Zuckerberg and Bezos and all of the other tech bros kind of piling behind Trump, licking his arse, to say, is there such a thing as a free and fair democracy anymore with the state of social media?
I think if you go back and look at, I think it was in during the inauguration, you had in the front line was Trump's family. Next, on the next line behind were all these billionaires, these tech giants like Bezos and Musk and others. And then behind that was Congress, were the congressmen or the senators or the politicians. So I think that was by design. You could see the front was family first, then the people who donate to the party or donate to me, and then it's the politicians after. So he's already presented who's important to him. So and when I saw his son, Barron is the son's name, I was thinking, okay, that's going to be the next Trump. I think he's being groomed to be the next. I would put money on it that he's groomed to be the next leader. I don't think it'd be one of his sons. I think it'd be somebody like Barron, and they're trying to create a dynasty. You know, it's a family. It's not even like the Kennedys. It's more like a sort of Kim Jong-un type thing, where I'm the dear leader, and then I will select the next leader. So, and I think this is really, really worrying for America, because you know we generally have this idea that it flips between the Republicans and Democrats. I think those days. I hope I'm wrong, but I get the feeling that those days are over, and it's going to be Trump until until the statue is pulled down by people, rebelling against the regime.
It's funny that you bring up that hierarchical system that he's got in place for where people were standing. Do you see that Nigel Farage didn't get into the inner chamber? Then he got absolutely done over on GB News, which was fascinating to see that they threw him under the bus on that one. But Boris Johnson was in there ahead of him. And does that mean that Nigel isn't really worth anything then based on that? And that Boris Johnson is? I mean, Boris Johnson's not even MP. Or is that a signal that Boris Johnson's going to rerun the Conservatives in the future?
It's possible, right? Because the fact that Nigel weren't in there might suggest that Musk has got the ear of Trump, and Musk is sort of in Trump's ear saying, bin Farage is no good. He won't back us with Tommy Robinson or whatever the bloody hell he wants. So maybe Musk is actually in Trump's ear and pushing him away from Farage.
Well, Dominic Cummings is apparently kicking it around with Elon Musk. You heard that?
Yes, I've heard that as well last week.
Why?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They want to start some sort of party or something in the UK. I don't see that working out, but there were rumors that Cummings and Musk want to. That's why maybe Musk has pulled his support from Farage. But it's very interesting that Boris Johnson was there, and I was thinking maybe it's because of prestige, because Boris Johnson's an ex-prime minister. But then I was thinking Liz Truss. Liz Truss is a former prime minister, and she wasn't there. She wasn't invited. So unless it's a sexist thing, which is also possible with Trump, but it is interesting that Farage, who's a sycophant, was not in, but Johnson, who's not a sycophant and not a politician anymore, was in. So I think, maybe there's nothing. Maybe it's all just a bit of smoke, but it's certainly something interesting to look into.
Trump did give kudos to Boris Johnson over Brexit. I mean, he knew Brexit and his first rise to power were kind of linked, and it's when we started to really see the effects full blown of populism and on social media and that psychological messaging and stuff like that. And he did say they call him like Britain's Trump, So I think that, again, former prime minister, got Brexit done, good cause for the populist, hard right. I think that possibly could have something to do with a bit more prestige, where Liz Truss, she is the laughing stock of the UK, really, isn't she? And maybe he understands that.
Maybe Trump just fancies Boris because he looks a bit like him.
Cousins.
Yeah.
Royal tradition.
Yeah. They're from Dan. Oh, no,
setting up a dynasty.
Isn't Trump from Scotland? Is that right? He was born in Scotland, right?
No, his mum was.
His mother's Scottish.
Oh, that's right, yeah. I was going to say perhaps it's a Southern American thing. But,
did you see the Trump movie? The Trump movie that came out just before Christmas.
Oh, not Home Alone 2.
I saw a trailer for the Trump movie, but I haven't actually seen the movie. Who plays Trump in it?
Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier from Marvel, I think is the best thing he's known for.
Oh.
Have you? And no one saw it.
I've never even heard of it. That's mental. What?
Wow, it was amazing. You should have got Oscar.
Is it pro-Trump or a biography?
Or... Absolutely tears him a new one, and it's just really interesting because it's, I think Trump threatened to sue them, but they were like, we fact-checked everything, and it's based on autobiographies and everything else. Even his assault on his wife, his first wife, was actually in a biography. I think she recanted it in court and said that never happened, but she wrote it in a biography, and they were like, yeah, we're going to go with the biography over what you said in court because we're not going to. Yeah, we just don't believe you. You made something up like that. And it was, I mean, it was damaging. It was so well acted, but it also set up the precedent of set up him and why he was to become president and how he got it into his head and the control and the manipulation. But that movie was incredible. I think if Trump hadn't won, that's the type of thing that could have got him an Oscar. And I'm just curious if anyone saw that, because it gave a real sort of interesting insight into his thinking and how he became who he was.
I didn't. I can't believe I've not even heard of it, to be honest. I need to find out what it is. Is it just called Trump?
I can't actually remember the name of the movie off the top. Oh, this is where you get fact check, 2 seconds.
Get fact checked.
This isn't your show, Alex. We don't do fact checks here. We just talk bollocks.
So not true. It's so not true.
Well, that's illegal.
You have to be willing to do anything to anyone to win.
There are two types of people. There are winners and there are losers.
You're over-leveraged and have debt up to your ears.
I know what I'm doing.
Have a look at yourself. You're getting ugly.
Don't you forget, I made you.
We have a brand new campaign slogan. Let's make America great again.
Well, I like the again part.
But on the serious note, with this sort of, we'd go back to, democracy is really in danger, isn't it, at the moment? I mean, and social media is a huge part of this. And I really worry because governments need to get a grip. And if they don't get a grip now, it could go, a lot further. And I think so many people, whether the algorithms work, I worry that these people who are already in these bubbles of algorithms, whether that be anti-Muslim, anti-immigration, once one, they all follow each other. Huge swathes of the British population, probably that wouldn't have been politically engaged previously, maybe never voted. I mean, we all know about this emotional messaging. And I just worry these people are never going to go out their way to look for alternative sources. They're literally being radicalized by memes and, one-liners and in their own bubbles of hate. And how do we ever break through that now? It feels to me like it's almost set. And unless you get individuals who are really willing to go and find the truth out there, they just believe everything that they hear, whether about immigration and asylum seekers, and it's radicalization by meme. That's what I call it.
There's a link with The Apprentice, because I think if that movie had come out 10 years ago, before social media had such a massive impact, I think that movie could have swayed the election because it was so damning. And I think I start to agree with you on the premise that social media is just so influencing. I think someone on the group, I think one of you guys said that it goes direct into the emotional core, whereas TV didn't so much. And yet, social media is so addictive that you could be spending hours online staring at different bits and pieces and following these characters and their diatribe. Whereas in the past, when you had TV as the main source of information, you were obviously still limited, but it was still somewhat controlled. No one's controlling Musk doing Hitler salutes, and he will have galvanized people. The right wing would have loved that. There's no arguing about it. If you're a fascist, if you're racist, if you're extremist, nationalist, you're just like, yeah, we're winning. That's what's going through.
Do you know, I think a lot of it is the way social media, especially with TikTok and since TikTok, is sort of compressed. No one's got any patience to watch, even a 60-second video anymore. So everyone's trying to cram information into 60 seconds or less, which inevitably, I can't say that word that starts inevitably, I said it. Inevitably means you're going to leave information out so that you can fit it into 60 seconds or less. And I think that is where the problem comes, because then you've got a video with already loads of information missing. Other people will see that video and use it to form their opinions, and then they go on to create content too. And it's a bit like Chinese whispers. And you don't go too far down the line before you see the actual real message is completely out the window. And now we're just talking about, I don't know, hating Muslims or something, which is completely unrelated to the reality of what the original story was. And I think that's how social media is damaging everything, is the impatience everyone has to. If you look at your TikTok, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but if you look at the statistics, it's like, less than 40% of the people get beyond 5 or 6 seconds on a lot of these videos, which is crazy. It's the same with written articles, isn't it? So many people clearly just read the headline and that's all they want to know. They don't even click into it and read the rest of the story. And as we know, quite often the actual story is unrelated to what the headline says. So that's what I blame, is the way social media works, and it's kind of dumbed us all down in a way, hasn't it?
We had a problem. I used to coach football, and we were having, this is about 5-10 years ago, we were already having issues with concentration levels, and we were having a big debate about how long do you put each little training session on over an hour or 2-hour period. And we were debating about whether or not it should be 10 minutes. And the pushback was, well, it doesn't change the length of the game, which is 90 minutes, and you have to play 90 minutes and concentrate for the full 90. And when you get to the sort of Premier League level, if you switch off once within those 90 minutes, that's where you lose the game. It's that sort of elite level concentration. But we were still realizing that the kids couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes and that you would have to go on to the next task. Otherwise, they get bored. And you've got this huge dilemma within the sport of, do you try and fight the social media or do you work with the social media? And that, we assumed that was the reason, because we saw the rapid change within about over a 10-year period between the kids that we used to be able to coach for that amount of time to the kids that were coming through by the time I was coming to the end of my career in coaching. And
what did you decide? Did you decide to do old school or try and shorten everything?
We came to a balance, so it was normally like 10, 15 minute little training sessions, and then you try and have a long match at the end, like 20, 30-minute match, and then you'd have to try and change the rules a couple of times within the game, or set sort of, depending on what you wanted to do, set little tasks within that, so to individual players or to change it up. So maybe you start off with 1 goal and then you switch to 2 goals a quarter of an hour through, and then that's changing it up enough that it's not getting it too boring. Or take off 1 player or create a new scenario like, oh, you've got a penalty, what do you do now? So yeah, we had to work within that. And I mean, in a 90-minute game, that's what's going to happen anyway. Things will happen that you can't predict. So it is good to throw little curveballs in there like that. Yeah. But it wasn't liked. And if you went up to the elite level, like the first team, the professional teams, they wouldn't do that. That would be completely out of the question. You could have half an hour to an hour of non-stop. It's 11 aside, and that's it, depending on who the coach was. So yeah, it was really difficult, but amazing to see that shock impact that it was having on that generation.
What do you think, Max? Do you think it is social media bending us, or we're just...
I think it's social media bending us, and we can't resist it. Like I was just thinking, as Alex was saying about the attention spans and how you have to adapt to that. I was just thinking of in a different way. Trump went on all the major podcasts in the US before the election. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast, the biggest one I think in the US, and Kamala Harris didn't. And what I'm looking at, what is Farage doing? Farage is really popular on social media. He has 3.5 million followers, I think. And Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer are way, way down. And I really don't understand that. Keir Starmer has an opportunity. He could do something like that. He could, I need to sell my message. He keeps saying in Parliament, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and he tries to explain. But I think him going on a 1 hour, 2 hour podcast and talking to people in a very frank way about things, I think this could help him, but he'd need to do it constantly and consistently. You need to, for example, when it came to Elon Musk puts out a tweet about Jess Phillips. He puts out a tweet about the situation in Britain, and everyone jumps on that. Like, this guy is not elected. He's not in Britain. He wasn't even an official at the time. This was before the inauguration. and he had a massive amount of power, and you had politicians standing up in the House of Commons talking about, well, Elon Musk is talking about this, well, maybe we should too. Now, I'm not saying that we should follow what Elon Musk has to say because he's completely unhinged, but he's using these tools to get his message across, and we have to do the same. We can't say, okay, let's ignore Musk or let's go in a different direction. We have to embrace this. Now, we're starting at a huge disadvantage because Musk owns the platform, for example, and Farage has 3.5 million followers. But we have to engage in the battle if we want to get our message across, doing stuff like this, engaging on social media, and then putting out content. Like Femi is really good at putting out these short clips, Supertansky as well, really like these short, punchy clips that go viral and get the message across. But we tend to be stuck in an echo chamber, and we need to break out of that. We need to, go on shows. I've seen some people from the left, from left-wing outlets, going on GB News. Now, I'm not a fan of GB News, but if you can break into that, if you can get your message across, and I know Alex knows, people from the Rejoin EU party who go on GB News or on Talk TV and get the message across. I think we have to do that. Because if we just talk to ourselves, the message won't go any further. We have to break out of the bubble and into their bubble. And sometimes, people who we would imagine are not willing to listen to us would actually go, well, actually, this person is making some valid points. It's important that you speak their language. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Is this how you announce that you're now taking a slot on GB News?
And Talk TV and LBC reached out to me, but I said, no, I want to go where the real stuff is.
They're too moderate at LBC. But I couldn't agree more, though. And that's why I went on that James Whale show, didn't I, before the last March. And I got a bit of shit for going on that. But I was like, I just said exactly what you just said then, really.
In the EU, all but name.
But we've left the EU, haven't we?
Not really. We have, but we've got a lot.
We are going to. We are going to. We haven't left it. If we'd left it, we'd have our navy in the Channel, and we would not accept all these illegals coming over and breaking into our nation.
What would our navy do in the Channel?
They'd
return them to France and save lives because no people would drown.
How would you do that?
Return it to France.
Hang on, I don't really care how they do it.
Return them to the French beach.
Because why are we allowing people to come in our country illegally? You sit there with a smug view. I'm getting annoyed with you now.
Is this real? Is this real?
Are you an idiot?
In reply to him, same with GB News was around at the march, trying to get a press pass, and they'd got told no a few times, and I found out, and I was like, what are you doing that for? Let them in, get them in, I'll do an interview if they want me to. And they did an interview with me for that reason. The reason NRM, we set up NRM in the first place, was to get outside the online bubble and get into the real world on the streets and talk to people in real life, sort of thing. So that is part of it to me, and that's why we're staying on Twitter too, because for the same reason. Sorry, Lise.
No, I agree. It's difficult with X, just as a whole new conversation. I've been talking about that in multiple groups recently, and everyone has different opinions. But part of the European Movement UK, I'm on the board there, and both Nick Harvey, the CEO, and Mike Galsworthy, who's a chair, have both appeared multiple times on GB News. And I got to say, they hold themselves well because they know their stuff. They're professional. They're not going to overreact, and is it Camilla Tomley?
Tomlinson?
Tomlinson, yes. I think she has a little soft spot personally for Mike Galsworthy. She's always got a little twinkle in her eye when he's on. So, but it is important to break out of the bubble. And I totally agree with you, Max. I mean, I think the left are pretty shit at social, that kind of viral social media stuff, and Labour are just too straight. They need to loosen up a bit, kind of get out, short, snappy messaging. People just get bored with policy stuff. And today we have changed the law and did it do and did it do, and
or another slow motion video of people walking. Like this is not what people want to see. They want to hear, okay, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? And to see them challenged. I think sorry, I'll let you talk. I'm domineering the show here.
That's fine.
Dominating the show. No, but it's I think there's a real opportunity for politicians. Like if something you guys said as well, which really resonated with me. You don't have to remember if you're telling the truth. You don't have to, like, that's why they're so good. That's why you guys are so good when you go on GB News or on Talk TV, is because you're telling the truth. So you don't have to remember anything because you're telling the truth. If you're telling lies, you have to go, oh, well, did I say this or did I say, no, you just, and when you're telling the truth and you're honest and you're frank about things, I think, people who would normally disagree with you, yeah, I think this person is making a valid point. And you plant a seed.
Yeah. So I was going to say something, actually. I was wondering if we would like to move on to the topic that you shared, Max, about this rollback of civil rights that Trump is trying to do in America at the moment. I've literally come across it this afternoon because I've been busy, but it's all around basically equality, isn't it, and stuff like that. And would you both like to run us a little bit through that? Because it's really worrying, but will he be able to do it? Is it illegal? Will it get through the courts?
Yeah, so it seems to be, and this is really fresh stuff. So I just saw it before we came on to do this interview, and it seems that Trump wants to roll back a lot of the protections that were put in place over, not just during the Biden administration, but over the last number of decades. Affirmative action, which is a policy that was introduced back in, maybe Alex can
60s.
Back in the 60s, to help African Americans get jobs and to get access to housing and stuff like that, and into universities and colleges. It seems that Trump wants to roll back that. He's written a huge number of executive orders against all things like the protection for the environment, getting out of the the Paris Climate Accord. He also wants to leave the World Health Organization. But when it comes to this particular one, it seems the Civil Rights Act, which was signed in 1967, is that right? Or 1964? It seems Trump wants to undo that as well and disenfranchise millions of people. There's also talk, of course, of deporting millions of undocumented migrants who, like as we saw as a consequence of Brexit, work in fields, work in factories, and it's going to decimate the economy. And of course, it's inhumane in many cases. So it's still early days, but we're seeing a Trump administration not held back in any way. It seems back in 2016 or 2017 when he took over, he was surrounded by people who operated somewhat of a brake on him, kept him back slightly, restrained him somewhat, but now he's completely free to do what he wants, and he's even been encouraged by people both in and outside of his administration.
Yeah.
So it's very concerning.
Did you see the minister rip into him?
Oh yes, the bishop.
Bishop.
Yes.
That was absolutely brilliant. She was in front of his face.
She was incredible, but did you see his response back to her? I mean, it was just disgusting. I mean, on this, I've got a little thing up here, so I'll run through a couple of little points very quickly. But the Audit declares that it is the policy of the United States to protect the civil Americans, to promote individual initiative, excellence, and hard work. I therefore order all executive departments and agencies to terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcements, actions, consent orders, and requirements. I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws and combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities. So this is basically promoting diversity illegal. And the federal government also allowing or encouraging federal contractors and subcontractors to engage in workforce balancing based on race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, or national origin will also be illegal. So basically, if you're going to do any DEI work or want to hire people to increase the diversity of your company or anything like that, it's going to be illegal. So
within government.
Within government. But I think
I
think he does state private sector in this article.
No, he wouldn't be able to do that because you would have to then go through Congress and change the Civil Rights Act, which, I mean, he could do. I mean, he could try to do. I think it would absolutely destroy him if he did. And Congress would have a flip round within 2 years to become completely Democrat, and that would be the end of his presidency. What he can do is, so the government gives out contracts, and part of the contract stipulation is that you follow those procedures that he's just rescinded. So I think their view, and I'm going to be a bit nuanced in their thinking here. I'm sure there's an element of racism within here, but I'm sure there's also an element of meritocracy in its thinking. It shouldn't be based. You should be hiring people on their skill. That's it, nothing else. Which is fascinating. And I mean, it was fascinating. He had the "I Have a Dream" speech read out in his inauguration celebrations, which I thought I was so bamboozled by it. But then again, you're still bamboozled by him having the guys do YMCA. That song is synonymous with gay men. Like, and yet he sat there.
I just wanted to add that the original village people came out and condemned this. They said that, look, this is not us. It's actually it's another group that bought, or they took over the name. So it's called the YMCA. It's called the Village People, and it's officially the Village People, but it's not the ones from the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s.
I had heard it wasn't the original members. Yeah.
So that's why they couldn't sing.
Are you telling me the Village People were good singers even back then?
Okay, so it seems like that's where I was confused. I thought he can't do this legally because he has stated private companies. So this article says, but we do say it's very fresh. Because I further order all agencies to enforce our long-term principles.
You would still be able to
private sector DIE.
But you would still be able to sue if you proved that there was discrimination within the workplace. There's a nuance here. It's like we'll give out the contracts, but you don't need that as part of the legislation. And I don't want anyone, because he is the boss. I mean, he's in charge of those departments to an extent. I'm going to have to be careful here because it's probably more nuanced than you realize, because it's meant to have an element of separation from government. And he's sort of gone in thinking he is the boss. But he's then forgetting the bigger picture, which is, no, this is about longevity of the United States. There are certain departments that are not meant to be politically picked, even though you've got the right to do that, because it'll fuck up the country if you go and do that, because every 4 years you'll have someone new in charge and they won't know what the fuck they're doing. So it's better to have people promoted in-house. So that's where we get this sort of nuance. I'm pretty sure you'd still be able to sue for discrimination if it was caught out. It's just that it's a lot harder to do now because of everything that he's done. I mean, he said there's only 2 genders now.
Yes.
Fuck. What the fuck are you doing, man? Like,
you know what's also funny is you heard people like Robert Jenrick in the UK and Brexiteers and other Brexiteers who are saying we need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. We can have our own Bill of Rights. We can be like the United States. They don't encroach upon people's human rights. Well, now we're seeing it. So it's not exactly a good advertisement for leaving the ECHR, because at least there's a court beyond. In the US, there's the Supreme Court, and that's it. And Trump has filled the Supreme Court with his cronies. So there's nothing, you can try and take it to the Supreme Court, but they'll just tell you to get lost.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much.
Well, at least in Britain, still part of the European Court of Convention on Human Rights, at least if Farage becomes Prime Minister, God forbid, at least if the UK is still part of that convention, people can go there.
Yeah. Do you know what? Unfortunately, I think it actually might be a good advert for the people here who want to leave the ECHR, because the same people here who want to leave the ECHR also hate diversity stuff going on here. So they might say, oh, well, we can get rid of our diversity laws if we leave the ECHR.
But I think they're a minority, those people.
I really hope so.
I hope so too.
It's like all lessons from World War II have just been thrown right under the fucking bus. All of them. I mean, you know, it's funny listening to the trolls on the right-wing trolls online sort of bang on about, you know, we should be independent. We don't need any of this. And it's like, why do you think it was created in the first place? Farage has got a more nuanced one, being like, oh, it's gotten out, ECHR has gotten out of control. But again, it's one of those things of like, go on then, name some laws. Name some laws. And of course, or some court decisions that have badly affected you. And you can't name shit. It's the same with the EU when you bring that up as well, isn't it? Where you're like, name some EU laws that really badly affected your life. And it's just fucking
I remember
science,
one
isn't
guy
it?
on LBC who was talking about washing machines.
Are you in the washing? Are you in the washing machine business?
No, I'm not. It's an example that I was challenged by a friend to give this answer to you know that you're asking as well, and so I had to look up and read some European legislation. But
you had to look it up after you'd said that it was a good idea.
No, I'll give you one that I work in. So I work in construction.
No,
so
can we just finish off the washing machine stuff first?
Okay.
Because I haven't heard it from anybody in the industry.
Okay.
An objection to it. So what is the problem?
Well, my objection to that is that, or the objection to that I've got is the calculation they have for it is very prescriptive.
Yes.
And it's easy to fudge these calculations.
Okay.
It's a very long calculation. It's set in one formula. And you can play with the formula.
Is this a variation on the hairdryer Hoover story?
Yes, it's that kind of thing. Yeah,
so, I mean, when I said don't ring me and talk about hairdryers or Hoovers, parenthetically, we could have included washing machines, unless you're in the industry. So, I mean, the question was, how is it going to improve your life or mine? So let's do it from that angle.
Let me pick one that
no, let's do it from that angle. How's it going to improve your life or mine?
Well, I can tell you from a business point of view,
yes.
How it makes the business better.
But you're not in the washing machine business, are you?
No, but I could tell you about something that I am involved in. So,
well, then why are we talking about washing machines?
Well, because that's one as well that you didn't want to talk about it. So
no, I do. I want you to tell me how changing this regulation is going to make your life or my life better.
Well, the whole economy works better if the regulations are well written and they're practical. Most of the European regulations are very unpractical and over the top.
I mean, forgive me, but that should make it really, really easy for you to answer my questions then. So how is my life going to be improved by reviewing washing machine legislation?
Well, so that maybe not directly your life.
Well, okay, your life then.
Immediately. So if everyone's working very inefficiently, there's been less money for everybody. I'm just saying the rules that the European Union writes.
Yes, and I'm asking you to prove it, I suppose, politely.
Okay, so for example, I'll give you a better example.
That was supposed to be your best.
No, it wasn't. It was just an example, and there's hundreds of thousands of examples. I think.
Yeah, so when you say there's hundreds and thousands, and I say give me one, I think the presumption is that you'll reach for a strong one.
Yeah, and I can give you another. Well, you keep telling me that's not the area of industry I work in.
No, I just said how will it improve our lives? Washing machines, and you don't know, which is fine. I don't know either. So I probably wouldn't have phoned you live on the radio to say it, but here we are. So let's move on to something else.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember that one. Actually.
My Hoover doesn't suck as hard as it should.
I might stick
or my kettle doesn't boil as fast as I want it to. And my banana is too straight.
That sounds like something. That's like something Jacob Rees-Mogg will be complaining about.
Isn't it? But I do think when it comes to Trump, he's a shock jock, right? He has no clue actually how government works anyway. I don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But then it's going to hit legal processes and challenges and things like that. And so it's going to be a lot of noise. I'm not saying he's not dangerous and some of this stuff won't happen, but the deportations, for example, he's going to do something because he has to, and he wants to portray that across. But if you look into the details, the money, the costs, the logistics of it, it's just not viable on any scale. And if it does happen on any scale, I mean, surely images on our screens of children being dragged away from parents and things like this are going to create a huge, kickback to him. You would think, even the most moderate Americans, I do believe that a lot of Americans who voted for Trump, they're not that politically engaged. They've had a cost of living crisis. Everything's more expensive. They just assume that our economy was better before and they don't really care about him. They just want cheaper gas, right? So I do think there's swathes of them that when they actually see something like that, if it happens, will be repulsed. And
can I just be the one little fly in the ointment there? Because when you say about if American people see this, what if they don't? Because if you look at who was supporting Trump at the inauguration, the owner of Google, the owner of Twitter, the owner of Facebook, and where do most people get their information from? From the people are not really getting. And then if you look at CNN or NBC, they'll fall in line as always. So. What you're saying is completely correct. If American people see families being broken up, they're going to complain about that. They're going to be angry. But if they don't see it, because the media is not actually providing them with that information, then people will not know what's happening. And it's really concerned that I've always built the idea that people will rebel. People will kick out Trump if they look around and don't see things improving. But if they're convinced by the media that everything is great, there's nothing to complain about, like in 1984, then people will probably things are good. Maybe it's just me.
I'm mixed because I'm thinking that part of the reason Harris lost was because they did keep telling them, and maybe that everything was fine and don't complain. Look at Portugal, and I'm also going. Maybe they didn't have enough control of the media, and that's why the message didn't go through. I think Zuckerberg was definitely wanting the Democrats in instead of Trump, and now he's just got to suck it up. I think I'm a bit mixed because maybe you're right. Maybe they have been brainwashed enough to be able to go, oh, it's something else, or someone else has caused this, or it's Russia, or it's Ukraine. It's not Trump. Because as you said, like it's like a cult.
Yeah.
The other part of me is just going, as daft as they are, if they're not seeing improvements in bills, I don't think they will. So I think Trump's got it into his head about drilling out more oil. I think, believe it or not, there's a 5-year oil reserve. I don't see what he's going to do, and electric cars are coming. So he can drill as much as he wants. It's not necessarily going to help anything. I think the only thing that could bring down costs would be to produce more food, which he could do. But he's literally done the antithesis of that. He said he was going to make your grocery bills cheaper, and none of the legislation so far, and albeit it's only the first few days, has done anything to try and go, right, we're going to grow more food. Because if we grow more food, that'll bring down prices. Even with Medicaid, he just rescinded that so the pharmaceutical companies can charge whatever they want. And you're going, right, the two biggest costs that Americans are facing are bills like electric, gas, petrol, food, and medical bills. And you've just cut it all off. So what I think you're going to see in 2 years, you're going to see an economy that's being told to the public is good because they've deregulated and businesses are investing. But the average person is not going to see any change in their grocery bills or their medical bills. In fact, they're going to go up. So
that's what the Democrats need to be doing. The Democrats need to be banging this drum constantly. Is your life getting better? Look around. Is your life getting... Look at your medical bills. Have they gone down or have they gone up? Are you happy with the situation? They need to... If they're not able to succeed in delivering this message to the average person on the street, because most people are not Democrats or Republicans. Most people are not, I'm behind Kamala or I'm behind Trump. Most people are in the middle of the road, and they look around and they say, like, this is one of the reasons... People try to understand, why did people vote for this guy? Why did people vote for a racist, misogynistic, rapist, criminal, felon, whatever? Because it wasn't about him. It was about, am I happy with the status quo? And they were not.
Yeah. That's right. And it's similar here in that people are voting reform because they've seen Labour had 15 years on it and they didn't see much improvement to their lives, even though statistically Labour did quite a good few things when Blair and that was in power. If it didn't improve their life directly, then that don't matter. And then the Tories came in and spent, over 14 odd years doing the same thing, and their life still didn't get better. So now they feel, maybe rightly, that Labour had 15 years and didn't improve their life. Then Tories had 15 years and didn't improve their lives. So why wouldn't they? Well, that guy there is telling me that he can improve my life.
I ran everything that the Conservatives, I went through everything with the Conservatives and the Reform Party. Their policies are batshit for the economy. All it's doing is continuing the status quo of inequality. It doesn't, right. You need to sort out the birth rate. What did Kemi Badenoch turn around and say? She said, well, we're going to cut maternity pay. I'm like, well, you're a fucking idiot, then, aren't you? Then you had the Reform Party that had no policy, which means they're fucking idiots. Then you had immigration. Both parties wanted to cut that. And you're going, right, we're having 500,000 leave for the last 3 years now. I think it's now 4. That's 2 million people have left the UK in 4 years. What are you going to do to fix that? That's going to break the economy. The birth rate went down again to 144. That means you need 400,000 people a year coming in to fix that for the economy. And they don't have a policy for that. And then you look at the other policies, and they're all about making rich people richer. So you're going, that doesn't fix anything. Then you look at the housing policy. Again, housing's like key here. It needs to be fixed. There's no policies. So
but Alex, I think if you look at what's the message in the public sphere, it's the country is full. So like what you're saying is completely correct. It's that there's a population disaster arriving. You have an elderly population, and you have fewer and fewer young people paying into the pot to pay for healthcare and social care. And there's a disaster on the horizon. But the message, the public, every time you go on Talk TV or on GB News, what are they talking about? The country's full. We need to close the borders. That's their message. And I think a lot of if you ask your average person on the street, is the country full? They'll probably say, yeah, because they look at public transport full, or they look at the supermarket full, and they don't have the concept. It's like with climate change. People will, well, it's actually snowing today, so then there isn't climate change, because they're only looking at the very narrow window that they're in, or the little narrow place that they're in, and they're not looking at the bigger picture. And I think this is but as you said, they have no policies. But I think they don't actually need policies, as Peter was saying, and as Lisa was saying, is that the public are just tired of the status quo. Yeah, there were the Tories, then there were the Labour Party, and then if Labour don't do anything, people will be like, well, let's give this other guy a chance.
I'll be honest, I'm tired of the status quo. I really am, but that don't mean I'm going to be voting for Nigel fucking Farage anytime soon, or anyone who is in that direction. But
there is a party to rejoin the EU. They're a viable alternative.
They are.
They are, but they're also not, because of our political voting system. At the same time, but it's like politicians aren't connecting the dots. It's like when everyone says nobody's talking about Brexit anymore. That's complete bollocks. If they're talking about the cost of living crisis, they're talking about Brexit. If they're talking about NHS shortages, they're talking about Brexit. Brexit hasn't caused everything, like some people accuse us Remainers of saying, but it has made everything worse. So therefore, most things you're talking about, you are talking about Brexit, but politicians and certainly the media are not connecting the dots for people. And I've spoken to people where, like my old boss at work, avid Brexiteer, that we've been arguing about it for years, and he would vote to rejoin the EU now, and it's because I connect the dots for him. It's really easy to connect. I'm far from intelligent, right? If I can connect the dots, then the media and the so-called clever politicians should be able to do that too. But there just don't seem to be any leadership in that regard. They're just not connecting the dots for people and making things make sense.
But it goes back to what Max was saying with the social, I think we've all been saying with the social media. They're shit at it.
Yeah.
They're shit at communication, modern communications. They're a business. And how they haven't twigged that, or how they haven't, you could literally have Starmer doing a 15-minute talk once a week on YouTube about what he's done that week and the events of that week. He could do that. You could fill that time. You could do that time slot, even as PM. Doesn't do it. And it comes down to this bigger thing. Because of social media in part, but also because of constant failure within governments, there's a lack of trust. I find that with social media, you can regain that trust by talking direct to camera and being honest. And I think that was one of the big things that Trump did. Even though it was batshit, it was congruent. It was like, right, he's saying that and he means it. Even though if you really delved in, you knew he was talking bollocks. Like he said, I'm not doing Project 2025. I don't know what that is. Then the first executive orders come through and you're like, they're all Project 2025, you lying sack of shit. But he's really good at just explaining stuff and making it look like he's actually telling the truth and he's being honest and it is him and his ramblings. Starmer's never done that. And I think that's where Harris fell down with not going on those shows. She was invited onto Brian Tyler Cohen. That's as soft as it gets for a Democrat. He would have given her a softball pitch. But I mean, Trump did sort of the same. Joe Rogan didn't push back on anything.
No.
Didn't bring up on January 6th. Just ignored the fact that he tried a coup. Just ignore it. The fact there's always that nuance of like, oh, you know, he said go peacefully at the end, like once, but he wound up the crowd for the whole thing. He did nothing for 3 hours. He did nothing. He sat there in a room witnessed by several dozen people, all going, he just sat there watching the TV and did nothing. And people had to come up to him and go, can you get the guards out? And there's even a historical precedent for that. I think there are 2 occasions where presidents pulled out troops into the Capitol to clear out mobs. Oh, he's one of them. Don't you remember when he cleared out the mob for the church so he could go and do an upside-down Bible like a Satanist? Yeah. Like, that was hilarious when he did it upside down. And then the other one was, I think it was Harding. A load of World War I vets turned up being like, we want our pay for fighting in World War I. And so he got other troops to clear out the old troops that had fought. But the fact is, Trump could have done that. For 3 hours, he did nothing. And that never gets brought up.
Shall we finish on a question, if that's all right with you, Lisa?
Yes.
Which is, am I right in saying that an American president can only serve 2 terms? And is that in a row, or can Trump stand again?
As long as it's 2 terms, that's it.
It's just 2 terms, full stop, even if they're split up?
Yeah.
Okay, so who do you think is going to be replacing Trump for the Republicans? Is there anyone? Because a lot of people say reform and all that side of politics in the UK is Farage, and there is no one to replace Farage.
No.
Tice tried, failed. There is no one to replace Farage. So if Farage died tomorrow, the whole movement would basically die. A lot of people say that. Yeah. Do you think it's the same with Trump, or is there people that can follow Trump over there?
There's a few that squawk similarly to him. Like, I'm thinking Ted Cruz, but you could see in the polling there wasn't. But I mean, you've got such a big country, and they'll get a few people in there. I mean, we were having a debate the other week about Mitt Romney and whether or not he did an all right campaign, but he's not Trump. I mean, he wouldn't do half the batshit stuff that Trump does. It would have been a bit wild, but I don't think it would have been Trump wild. So,
not Kanye West, or
I don't see anyone taking up the mantle and being as wild as him and being able to get away with it.
I thought you were going to say Mr. Beast.
That would be quite funny.
Mr. Beast said he's going to run as an independent.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, he went a bit batshit because he then went and said, hey, I'm going to listen to both the Democrats and the Republicans, and I'll take the best ideas and implement them in America. And it's like, it doesn't work like that, kid.
What do you think, Max? What's after Trump?
I'm extremely
if we're all still alive.
No, I think he's grooming somebody, or someone will be groomed within his, because I keep coming back to that thing about the family. If you look at maybe someone from the Epsteins, but if you look at that's a different type of grooming, of course. But if
not unknown, sorry, that was just such a, you've set the pins up. It's like he's grooming someone. There's photographic evidence.
Yeah.
But I would say maybe Barron. I would put money on Barron. Not a huge amount, but if I was a betting man, I would put money on Barron. Because
he'd have to change the constitution.
Was he not?
He'd have to be 35.
Well, no, maybe not straight away, but then it would be, or maybe one of his sons. So one of his sons would certainly make it. But it would be set up for another Trump. I don't see him backing somebody else unless it's somebody that he has been supporting, because they would have to start it now. So, but I don't think he has an appetite to back somebody like Ted Cruz or anyone like that.
Do you not think Vance, considering his VP?
No, but he doesn't even have respect for Vance. Like Elon Musk is the VP. Or maybe the actual president.
I was going to say he's the fucking president, isn't he?
I can't see Vance lasting that much. I just can't see them two getting on. I think we'll probably see, like, could you just sack a vice president or something? I mean, sure, Trump he can do anything he likes, but I reckon he'll be gone within 6 months. Maybe Elon take his place without an election. Who knows?
Has anyone seen the Vance midterm for about, I think, 6 or 8 years ago, campaign video that he did? And it starts off with, "Are you a racist? Have you been called a sexist? Vote for me."
It needs to be Snoop Dogg who takes over as president, and he needs to get the whole country to chill the fuck out and have a smoke. You know what I mean? That's what
Didn't he celebrate Trump's victory?
Apparently he went to a corporate event which was in celebration of the inauguration. Not Trump and that weren't there or anything. I suspect he might have been duped into that, because Snoop Dogg has actually proper spoken out against what he calls Uncle Toms, which is other black people who suck up to people like Trump. So I'll be gobsmacked if Trump has done a U-turn and following. If Snoop has done a U-turn and is following Trump, to be honest.
So we'll leave it on that note then. Snoop Dogg for president, and the world will be a happier place.
100%.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care and see you soon. Bye.
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 Rejoin.